Hey, my name is Jessica. The book I chose to do is called Going Someplace Special. It's a book by Patricia C. McKissack and Jerry Pickney. Um, I had not read this book. It was recommended to me by a friend, and I'm really glad that she recommended it to me because it was a really good book. Um, I think the themes in the book are very, very relevant to today's political climate. And I think the kids can recognize when they listen to the story um, how this book can relate to what's going on today and now in the news and that they see every day. Um, it's a story about a little girl. She's 12, and she is going somewhere special for the first time by herself. And she finds out that her journey is not as easy as it has been with somebody else, with her grandmother. And she finds out that racism exists, and she finds out how it makes her feel. And I think a lot of kids can relate to this book even now. Um, Obviously, this was like the 50s, 60s, but even now, kids can relate to that. They can tell when somebody's being discriminated against. So I'm going to read just a few. This is a really long book, so I'm going to read just a few. Here's where she's going to. She's asking, can she please, please, please go somewhere special? And Grandma says yes, and she's like, Mama Frances chuckled all the time, studying her granddaughter's face. I trust you'll be particular and remember everything I've told you. I will, Tricia Ann said, real confident like. Suddenly her smile grew into a full grin. So you're saying I can go? I reckon, but you best hurry before I change my mind. And then she says, and no matter what, Mama Frances called after her, hold your head up and act like you belong to somebody. So at this point, I wondered where Tricia Ann is going because it doesn't say where she's going. And I know that she loves this place because she's so excited to go and she's begged and begged and begged to go. And finally, she gets to go. So she gets on the bus and she says a sign that says colored section. And she's she had seen such signs all her life. She recalled the first time she and Mama Frances had taken this bus ride, and her grandmother had told her, "Those signs can tell us where to sit, but they can't tell us what to think." I'm going to think about someplace special, Tricia Ann said to herself and looked out the window. So she's riding along and she notices one of her grandmother's friends getting on the bus and there's nowhere to sit. So she stood up and gave her seat. And I was thinking about how kind it was for her to let her sit down and how she was thinking of others. So we go through the book and she gets off the bus and she's really upset because she had to give up her seat and there's a ton of empty seats in the white section and she doesn't understand why she can't sit there. And so she starts to get a little angry right here. She's glaring at the empty seats. That tells the reader that she's upset. So we go through and she comes to a bench and she can't sit on it. Nobody's in the park, but she can't sit on it because it says for whites only. And this made me think about how she felt. Like you hear about people being discriminated against, but until it happens to you, you don't think about how you would feel because you can't relate to it. So I wondered how that made her feel. She's in an empty park and can't sit down. So we go through and she meets people and they say, "Why do you look so upset?" She tells them and she gets pushed into this big party. There's a big, big crowd of people and she gets shuffled in where she doesn't belong. And um, this this man screams at her and says, "What is she doing here?" And she gets really upset, as anybody would when they're embarrassed like that. And I felt really sad for her. I felt like you know nobody hurts a child, and that's how I felt really bad for her. And I can't imagine not being accepted just because of the color of my skin and not the content of my character. So she talks to one of her grandma's friends, and she makes her feel better. And this little boy right here, she's at the movie theater, and this little boy says, "Are you coming in?" And before she can answer, the woman she's with says, "Well, she can't sit with us." And she said, "Well, I would." She basically says, "I don't want to sit up there anyway where I can't see. I'd rather go somewhere else." So she ends up going to someplace special, and her someplace special is the public library, where on the building it says, "All are welcome." So this is her someplace special where she can feel like she belongs and feel good, and she's not embarrassed to be there. Um, it says, at the corner, Tricia Ann saw a building rising above all that surrounded it, looking proud in the summer sun. It was much more than bricks and stone, it was an idea. Mama Frances called it a doorway to freedom. When she looked at it, she didn't feel angry or hurt or embarrassed. At last, she whispered, I've made it to someplace special. So, her someplace special was a place where she felt accepted and loved and cared about. And that's really what all children want to feel. And so, I feel like children could really relate to this book because, um, you know, people are discriminated against all the time and they see it and they learn it. And I think this book could open up really good discussions about racism and discrimination. Thank you.